Hi guys, this is Allison Lee, and for quarter 3 outside reading, I decided to read this book, Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be, Antidote to the College Admissions Mania by Frank Bruni. So I chose to read this book because I thought it would be really relevant for me to read right now as a junior in high school. And I think a lot of people, including myself, that are my age, are really starting to feel the pressures of having to get into a really good college with college applications and that whole process about to start for us. I think a lot of people feel really stressed out and think a lot about going to college. And for me, there's always been the stigma that if I don't get into a good college that has a big name for itself, then I won't be able to be successful in life. And I think right now, that whole situation and that whole stigma has really become so much more present and relevant in my life because of the whole stigma surrounding junior year, where you have to maintain the best GPA and you have to have the best grades, and SATs are starting and you have to get the highest score, having to go to tutoring all the time, studying for AP tests, and just all that academic preparation is just seems to be setting up for me to try to get into the best school. And it's really stressful right now for a lot of us because there's so much going on in our personal lives, and then we have to throw in all this academic stuff and extracurriculars and all of that just to prep for this one-time thing of getting accepted. And I think that this book has a really great message because it talks about all of that and kind of debunks that myth that you have to get into a good school just to be successful. And I thought reading this book could really help me kind of understand that and kind of have peace of mind that I don't really need to get into the best college to be successful. And I think it would really help to broaden my view on colleges instead of just having a narrow view on what colleges I should go to and which colleges that I should apply to. I thought it would really help me to understand that there's a lot of different options for me to go to college and still be successful. So I think, like, a small summary of this book, it's pretty easy to tell what the main purpose and main idea of this book is just by looking at the title. Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. This book is about, it addresses that whole stigma about college, and it kind of talks about how college is important where you go, and sometimes the whole networking of going into one of the better colleges can help you in the future, but it's not the only thing that's going to determine your success in life. And I think it really helps because it gives you examples of people like past presidents and big company executives and CEOs, and it tells you like these people accomplish many things in life, and that's really evident by seeing their positions in our society, in our country. And they didn't go to the best schools, and they went to schools that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of, like I haven't heard of some of them, but they're still doing these great things in their lives and in our society, and they're really successful people today. And I don't think people stress that enough, and I think it's really good that this book touches upon it. And it really helps because it talks about different statistics and it shows what different people do to get into these colleges and how it doesn't always work out. And I think it's can be really relevant and relatable to people my age. But I feel like a couple downsides that this book has is that it mainly just focuses on Ivy Leagues, and it seems to really focus on just Ivy Leagues. So it can be kind of hard for people to relate to that maybe aren't necessarily aiming as high as the Ivy Leagues, like myself. But I think the whole idea and premise of the book is something that you can still really relate to other stressors, like getting into the UCs, which are really high up there right now. I think you could apply that idea of the book to that concept as well. And I really like how this book focuses on how success isn't determined by what school you go to, because in the end it's about your own hard work and your goals and your own personality, and that's how you're going to be able to achieve your goals. And if you don't try hard and you don't have that perseverance, then no matter what school you go to, you won't be able to succeed because you're not reaching for your goals. And I think it's really important that people know that, because I feel like college seems like that end goal where once you get in, that's it. Like, then you've reached your goal of getting into a good college. But I think people have to realize that there's so much more following after, and there's still a lot of hard work that needs to be put into success. And I think this book teaches that pretty well. And so I would recommend this book to a lot of people. I think mainly people my age, and even to parents of students my age, because I think the whole college mania and everything about getting into a good college and being successful is something that a lot of students struggle with, and a lot of parents emphasize on it a lot. Like, I know my parents are always talking about how I have to do really well in school, like maintain the best GPA. They take me to tutoring because they want me to get the best SAT scores, and they talk about they only name the top schools, like a lot of the UCs, USC, the top schools that many people don't get accepted into. And I think it just elevates the level of stress that students feel about getting into college, because you have your own stress, and on top of that you have your parents nagging at you that you have to do better and better to get into these schools. And especially at our age, and I think for our grade, a lot of us feel more competitive because it is getting harder and harder to get into college. And I think reading this book could really help kind of ease people's minds about that whole process, and maybe make it more comfortable to go into the college process without having to deal with all of that stress, and kind of having a more open mind to getting into college. The only downside that I think about this book is that it's really, really boring. It was really hard to read, and it just seemed to repeat the same things over and over again, which I think makes sense because it's really easy to know what this book is about just from the title. So the entire book is just constantly repeating that same idea and putting more evidence into it. But it's also like a medium-sized book, so having to read this entire thing was really hard. Like, I found myself having difficulty wanting to pick it up and read it and finish it, and I think that's a downside especially for people who don't like to read. I don't think they're gonna enjoy reading this book. Even me, I like to read most books, but it was just really boring. And so I think that would be the one downside. But in overall, I think this is a really good book, especially for people my age, maybe even a little younger, like end of sophomore year, mostly for juniors, I think, because the whole college process is really intimidating and stressful, and I think parents of students my age and students my age would really benefit from reading this book.